Yeah. All right, so let's talk about generational poverty. Better yet, let's talk about ending generational poverty. If you anything like me, your parents probably grew up in poverty. Your grandparents probably grew up in poverty. Their grandparents probably grew up in poverty, and so forth. Blacks represent 13% of the population, but 24% of the poverty population in America, right? That's crazy. That's crazy. That means black people, we only make up 13% of the population, but a whole quarter of the poverty population. That's mind-blowing. And statistics show that almost half the blacks who grew up in poverty, they're going to stay in poverty. Because 42% of blacks who grow up in the lowest income bracket, they stay in that income bracket. You want to know what that number is for white families or for white people? 17%. There's less upward mobility for black folks in general. Or honestly, if you just grew up in poverty, maybe you're not black. Maybe you're white, Latino, Asian. If you grew up in poverty, the chances are you're going to stay in poverty. The net worth of a typical white family is $171,000 in America. You know what that number is for black folks? 17,000. That's 10 times the amount. In 2020 alone, Americans inherited $750 billion in gifts and bequests, they call them, which is legacy. And that's in the form of people handing down things like homes, assets, stocks, businesses, tuitions. I went to University of Wisconsin where a lot of kids had shit set up where like, all I got to do is finish school and my granddad has it in his will that my tuition is going to be covered. Or once I finish school, I'm going to get a down payment on the house, right? As far as that $750 billion in gifts that came in last year, I know I didn't get none of that shit. Actually, when I think about it, my whole life, I never got an inheritance at all for anything. If you anything like me, you probably haven't either. So what do all these things have in common that I'm talking about? They're all results of intergenerational wealth or lack thereof. That's what's hurting people generation after generation, is not having anything to leave for the next generation. For the Americans who are building wealth and who have done so traditionally, a big portion of that, it comes from inheritances. Actually, 4% of all of the wealth comes from inheritances. Now, it's not your parents' fault. It's not your grandparents' fault. They were victims to a system that was designed to keep wealth out of black hands through things like deeds on homes. There were and still are homes that have in the deed, no Negro can own this property. Redlining, where a lot of black folks weren't even shown certain areas. You had Jim Crow laws that kept people from being able to operate businesses, underfunded schools. Our parents' generation and our grandparents' generation dealt with a lot of that. So it's not like it's their fault. We live in a different society though. And a lot of that stuff still permeates. It's still the case. A lot of that stuff is still the case. And it's going to be like that for a while. But I'm taking it upon myself to break that generational poverty. And I want to take others with me on this journey. That's why I made this channel. That's why I'm trying to grow the channel and get more subscribers, get more views. Really just for that. My father grew up in extreme poverty, concentrated poverty, in a small town without very many resources. He was a teacher for most of my life. And my mom worked as well. I had both parents in the household. So I was lucky enough to grow up in a middle class environment. Money wasn't ample. It still was in one of the nation's most impoverished cities with underfunded schools. Not a ton of resources or good role models who look like me for me to look up to. He grew up in extreme poverty. I grew up middle class. Now I'm making sure my daughter grows up a step ahead, a step up from that. a better situation where money is going to be less of an issue, a better school system, better neighborhood. That's happening right now. That's what I'm doing right now. And then hopefully she'll be able to do the same for her seeds. But that's honestly, that's why I'm talking about home buying and building credit, increasing your income by finding a higher paying job using LinkedIn or side hustles, any means necessary, because it's the way to start building wealth and changing the narrative for us, changing our outcomes and evening the playing field. Only 44% of black families own their home in America. You know what that number is for white families? I'll give you a second. What do you think that number is? 73%. You understand? So the objective is to make the systems that were designed to work against us work for us, instead of running away from those systems and saying, oh, I don't want nothing to do with credit. I don't want nothing to do with, I don't need to buy a house. I'm going to get a... Nah, take these systems and make them work for us now, because we had that opportunity to do so. Our grandparents didn't necessarily have that opportunity. So that's what this entire channel is about. If that's something you own, breaking generational curses and building generational wealth, holla at me, like, subscribe, share, comment. And if it's anything that you would like to see me talk about, pop it in the comments. Let me know. If I'm knowledgeable about it, I'll definitely speak on it. But let's do that. Let's do that. Let's build some wealth. Let's end generational poverty. Let's even the playing field. It's on us to do so, because the previous generations couldn't if they wanted to. I really feel like it's on us. I'm taking that responsibility for my family to say, all right, I'm going to end this generational curse of poverty. I know how they grew up and what they dealt with. My seeds ain't dealing with that. And they seeds ain't going to deal with that. That's from long-term thinking. That's from stopping this mindset of constantly living in the now and thinking about what you're going to do now. What you going to do for your seeds? How they going to eat? How you going to get them a head start? So holla at me, man. That's really what it is. Breaking them generational curses of poverty and building wealth, baby. Let's do it. Let's learn and motivate.